Welcome to this special masterclass featuring basketball player development coach Tim Martin. In our basketball immersion membership community, we run a weekly masterclass. They feature coaching experts from around the world who share tactics, techniques, and philosophies that have proved successful in their coaching. Past masterclasses have featured coaches from the NBA, NCAA, professional overseas, and all levels of youth basketball, including David Fizdale, Doug Novak, Gannon Baker, and more. Get access to all our past and future masterclasses available on demand at basketballimmersion.com. Now, on today's special free masterclass, helping players retain information and enhance learning within player development with Tim Martin. Tim, you couldn't have picked a better topic, and grateful for you to be here with us. Tim is a must follow on social media, and I will share his social media on here so you can have the links as he shares insights into better basketball coaching. He has developed successful players since 2007 with over 16 years of combined NBA draft and offseason development experience that has helped clients from WNBA, NBA, NCAA, and Europe to achieve better results. Thanks again for joining us. And a big thanks to Tim Martin for sharing the game with us. Tim, the floor is yours.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much, man. I know we've been trying to hook up for, it seems like years now. So love what you're doing. You know, I love how just all the content you've been providing. You know, it's always great to be around somebody like yourself and to have conversations, you know, and that was kind of something that I'm very adamant about. And today we're going to talk about that from a standpoint of just, you know, sharing information, but also retaining information. And so these are just some formulas and methods that I've used over the last, like I said, 15 years. Seems like it went by pretty quick, but we'll go ahead and get started. So for you guys out there, I'm sure everybody has a pen and pad. We're going to go ahead and just start off with just some of my 3 basic principles for success. And again, I know some of you guys have interacted with me to some capacity, whether it's at other speaking engagements. You know, I talk about this particular topic a lot. I'm like on a personal crusade to make this a focal point for all coaches and trainers out there. It's just very, very important, especially with this younger generation coming up. I know some of these guys, like myself, who's been in the game for like I said, a while, just trying to find some methods that could help us, you know, just do a better job of teaching all the way around. And so, you know, the 3 things we're going to dive into, the first is going to be communicate and translate. You know, how effective is your communication, and is it translating into, you know, your actual, the actual game? It's going to be very important to touch on. Second, we'll talk briefly about just developing IQ, just in general. You know, I'm very, very keen on not just basketball development, but more so on the human development aspect. So I'll give you guys some tips and tricks, kind of what I do with some of my pros and even the younger guys, some things that help manage their consistency and their IQ. And last but not least, just practicing empathy. This is a thing that's very sentimental to me, this particular topic, for so many reasons, which I'll share with you guys later on. But I think this is one thing that, you know, empathy is something that's not really discussed enough in the game of basketball. So, you know, we'll go ahead and get started. First and foremost, as I mentioned, you know, the art of communication. I've learned over the years, you know, this is the foundation of my success with this younger generation, is really having conversations with players as opposed to lecturing. You know, I think that my way or the highway kind of attitude, it worked back in the day, but nowadays, you know, these players respond differently. And involving them in conversations will definitely, you'll see a huge change in terms of their ability to at least just pay attention more, you know, try to be more curious about your teachings. So right here, I'm gonna go ahead and just start off with this this quick clip. This is a former player of mine, Matt Mcquade. He's actually an assistant coach right now for Michigan State. But at this particular time, we was getting him ready for pre-draft. I think it was back in 2018. But I want you guys to just kind of pay attention initially on what we do, whether it's before a workout or after a workout. I am very adamant about those conversations, post and pre-workout conversations. And so right here, we're just kind of discussing a brief review on what we got to focus on in terms of initiating contact and that kind of thing. So take a look.
What you need to do and all that stuff, you know what I mean? So
still got to get better at
staying with that contact.
Yeah.
Thing. That's one of the main things.
Man, you got to X out. Always remember that. First step is towards the rim. Second step's towards that defender. Because anytime you're attacking, remember they opening up. They're exposing their chest, and you're just trying to get inside that chest. But if you keep trying to beat guys to spots, this is where you're gonna really start feeling the athleticism in the league. You'll blow by a guy. You'll have 2 or 3 steps ahead of him, and then you got guys coming out of nowhere beating it. So you got to clip hips. Like, watch the games tonight, and watch how guys, when they attack, they cutting you off. And that's the same thing with Juwan.
Yeah.
I mean, Juwan get by you. He ain't trying to get to the spot. He trying to cut you off first. Then he'll get to the spot. You'll be good though. And 3 balls obviously there.
Yeah.
You see the spacing's gonna help. You dealing with smarter point guards.
Exactly.
Guys that see you. Yeah. And I think now it's just being active on them snap ups. Like, always stay in the line of vision of that ball. So, no, you'll be good. So,
but essentially, after a workout, it's always good to have some type of a review, and making sure that the players are really getting a better grasp of what it is that we need them to do. Right here and just in this clip, Matt was a 3-year starter at Michigan State, sharpshooter. As you know, most shooters don't like to really get to the basket or, work on all layups. But in this case, we're just working on trying to get the defender to open up, drop a foot, and for Matt to really get inside of his chest and initiate contact. And so this just really helps all the way around with, again, feedback. As a coach and a trainer, that's the best way I could actually help somebody, is knowing what they know or what they don't know. And so in this conversations, it encouraged players to really just ask questions. That's something that we're big on in terms of the environment that we create. It's very important to curate that in terms of just making sure that your coaches, your assistant coaches, are bringing high energy, and really just creating a fun atmosphere and encouraging players to, again, ask questions. By them asking us questions, that allows us to be able to scale and see if they're really engaged or not. And that, again, making players curious is another unique ability. And so 2 of the players that I've trained, guys like Trae Young and Tyrese Maxey, I knew early on when they were younger in high school, that's one thing. We would be in a workout, during Christmas break or what have you. And those guys would literally stop me in the middle of a workout and ask me questions like, "Coach, why should I pass the ball, over my head as opposed to just across my body, across my chest," or something like that. So them just really being curious about the fine details is, to me, what makes Tyrese Maxey and Trae Young, 2 of the best in the game today. But it's creating that environment to make them feel safe and not feel dumb if it is not maybe a detailed question or not. But relating to the players as people is another thing that I'm very big on. It's important to learn their interests off the court, and just find other metaphors or analogies that you could kind of bring to the conversation just to explain better, And one of the rules I have is you have to find 10,000 ways to say the same thing. It's our job as teachers to really dive into their interests on and off the court. And that's something that I'm very adamant about in terms of bringing in the conversations. It's not good to always just talk about basketball. You have to find other elements that they're also interested in. We'll try this one too. This is Jalen Wilson, another player we've been working with. This is this past summer. Jalen is a starter at University of Kansas. So congratulations on that, Jalen. You're going to the Sweet 16. But right here, again, just engaging in conversation, some sort of dialogue. I want to see where his mind is right here. And we're just talking about his shooting. How does his touch feel when he shoots the ball, and just getting his feedback.
Yeah. And when you shoot up, do you feel like you lose control of the ball?
When I shoot up?
Yeah.
I feel better when it goes up and out.
Okay.
There's another thing that I find really fascinating in just this day and age on where we're at. And, it's really called epic. It's something that we try to really touch on, whether it's through pre-draft or really just any workout. But being experimental, you know, the younger generation, to me, or at least from what I've learned, they learn best when we create experiences and then we debrief them. And so, you know, we don't want our workouts to be redundant, let alone even our practices. I don't think that's really healthy. I think it's good to be a little spontaneous. Obviously, you got to continue to, you know, cover over systematic fundamentals and stuff like that consistently. But in this case, we always want to create an experience to where they feel like they're a part of something bigger. And so when we talk about team, it goes into the overall aesthetic of that, from the coaches, you know, bringing high energy, to us just curating some type of learning atmosphere. The second thing is, you know, the participation aspect. They learn best when we allow them to weigh in on outcomes. You know, I think it's important to let your players have a voice to a certain degree. Obviously, you know, our job is to teach them a game of basketball, but to let them see what they think. You know, they're the guys that have to play the game. And so they may also feel something that we don't see particularly. So just getting their, you know, their 2 cents on certain situations is important. And, you know, image rich, that's something I'm very big on as well, with these visuals that I kind of messed up on with the volume. But, you know, we all in this generation are very visual people, you know, through social media, obviously with this masterclass. The more we could see, the more we'll be able to retain and comprehend. And then last but not least, just the whole connection. You know, players learn best when we let them discuss conclusions with peers. And so that's just more of that togetherness, letting players holding each other accountable, that sort of thing. So it's nothing really crazy or, you know, brand new or fresh. I think it's very cliche, but at the same time, it works.
You have to continue to ask questions and try to understand why things happen. And I think that's the most important thing. That's what I always try to do, is ask questions. Why does this work? Why does this why does this not work? You know, because when you understand why things happen, then you understand how to make things happen. So if there's something I could leave for this next generation, is to have that constant curiosity about the game.
Just the next thing, you know, I think, you know, when I started really traveling and moving up in my career, started working with just, you know, more NBA players and actually working with some more national teams in China, Africa, and a few other countries. You know, early on, I was always trying to replicate other trainers and trying to, you know, do 2-ball dribblings and stuff that I wasn't really, even as a player, I didn't really do, or I wasn't really comfortable with, but I thought that was the way I needed to teach the game. And so when I made a pivot in my delivery or my teachings, that's when my life really, you know, went on up and up. And I live by this, and I teach a lot of people this, but it's just know what you know and teach what you know. You know, with that, just in itself, if you're teaching what you know about the game of basketball, you're going to come across far more passionate. You're going to have more confidence in your delivery. And you're also going to be able to understand, you know, or just be more aware of the nuances and the details that you're actually teaching. So now when you go back to correcting players, you know, you're really going to be more, have a good eye on what to look for and what not to look for. And then as you kind of build your formula on your teachings, you know, you'll be able to expand, you know, as you continue to learn more about the game of basketball and get confident in other areas. But definitely teaching what you know will allow the player to feel more comfortable. And, you know, especially when you're dealing with NBA guys, you know, within the first 5 minutes of talking to a pro, they're going to know if you know basketball or not. And so it's very important to address them in a confident manner. And that's how they'll definitely start paying attention to what you're preaching. Just moving on, you know, checking in and just being on the same page. When I do large groups, whether it's, you know, big camps, I've had 150 kids one time and on 2 baskets, you know, so it's really hard to keep everybody engaged over a course of, you know, 2 or 3 hours. And so one thing I always do to break the ice, is I'll stop in the middle of my segment, and I'll just ask a random question to a random player, and I'll kind of put them on the spot to, one, make sure that we're holding the integrity of our workouts and making sure that every player is paying attention to what we're trying to accomplish. But then two, if they don't answer the question correctly, it also gives me just an indication of, okay, maybe they're not really understanding the subject matter right now. So it also allows me to kind of pivot and adjust on what I need to continue to teach, going back to finding 10,000 ways to say the same thing, because everybody learns differently. And so for me, just having those conversations and giving them that sense of empowerment as well, when they do answer a question correctly, I give them that positive reinforcement. You know what I mean? And what I noticed over the years, working with players from high school all the way to the NBA, at every level, I see their self-esteem and their confidence build over time. And so, you know, that can become contagious. And just looking at a kid using Tyrese Maxey as an example, when he walks into a gym and he's engaging with a coach or whatever, and he's laughing or joking around, other players feed off of that. And that's what makes him so special and unique. And obviously you see it on the court, but it all starts in the practice setting. We'll go ahead and just kind of skim through this, but just touching on that positive reinforcement. This is one of my players at the time, Lavoy Allen. Lavoy was a 10-year NBA vet. At this particular time in 2018, he was coming off a knee injury with the Indiana Pacers. And, you know, he's been out for about a year and just trying to work his way back. And, you know, there's always times where mentally you see players, especially coming back from an injury, they're always kind of going up and down, you know, emotionally. And so making sure that you're encouraging your players to continue to thrive and do better is great. And then on the flip side, Tyrese Maxey right here, when he was in high school, we're just kind of just going over some touch points on him getting to the basket and attacking in angles. So,
hey, you doing better. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hey, because I'm telling you, them rebounds, it's all day. You keep slipping like that. I know, but that's good though. You still active, you know what I mean? It's noticeable. I mean, in a good way, you know what I mean? Right? We talked about this before. Before you do anything off the dribble, what you got to do? I mean, off the space. Because you was trying to, like, just that last time. Yeah, he right here, right? So obviously, if you got a guy in the corner, you're gonna have to really use that screen from the top. You know what I mean? So he can snap up. But if you're trying to work this, you got to tell him to clear out before you go. And I know it's nerve-wracking because you got shot clock. Yeah. Really, I mean, that's NBA shit. And it's like two passes, shots going up. You know what I mean? So it's really important that you clear out everybody, get to a comfortable space. If your three's not going, remember, walk them in below this free throw line. So where now when you coming off, right, you got that lob, right, or them floaters. So if you notice what Juwan is, he's always going to walk you exactly what he wants. Right. That's why he's able to work that two-man with Mont, because he got the pocket. Remember, he got lobs. He's got like 3 lobs right now because of where he's working you in. You know what I mean? It's not just going free throw line extended. He may drag you up here. He may drag you down, whatever the case is. But he's got either a pass or a shot 100% of the time. Okay? You can't use the pick and roll and then just go ball reverse. You got to use the pick and roll to make a play. You know what I mean? So just keep being active on that and you'll be all right.
So moving right along, just diving into the IQ element, you know, it's important that we touch on this every single day. It's your job as a coach, I feel, to know what buttons to push with a player and to always put them in situations where they're getting reps mentally and understanding, you know, what to do in certain situations, whether it's coming off a pin down, working a pick and pop scenario, or whatever the case may be. But the more we stress understanding the whys, the hows, and the what are we actually doing, and covering that each and every workout, the better they're going to be in the long term. Okay, this is good. So this is something that I did with Rudy Gobert in 2019. I was on a retainer with him And the goal was for him to make his first All-Star appearance. And this is, as you can see, January 22nd. What I like to do, not just with Rudy Gobert or pretty much all my players, is before the games, I just like to send them small reminders of what to focus on. So while they're in the locker room, right before they go out to do their routine before the game, I'll send them some notes. And for this, they was playing, I think they was about to play the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I wanted to make sure that, he was just doing the little things that we worked on over the summer, just kind of reiterating the blueprint that we focused on to make it to the All-Star game. And one of the things for him was focusing on his spacing off the short rolls. I see a lot of bigs when they set that screen, it's like a straight line roll to the basket. And for him, we used to always talk about KYP, know your personnel. So the way he may set a screen for Donovan Mitchell, he may actually hold that screen a lot longer than he did for Joe Ingles. He may slip out a little bit more because Joe likes to get downhill, work those pocket passes. So just kind of, again, giving them a reminder. And then as you can see on this right side, giving them some scouting report on what Karl Towns has been frequently doing the last few games and just hitting his goals. This is another way I really believe that you can help your players become more consistent is simplifying their goals. So for this game, we wanted Rudy to make 24 points. And on average, I think he was playing about 32 minutes a game. So we dissected that into 8 minutes, rotational minutes, before he gets subbed out, each quarter. And so his goal versus the Timberwolves was to make 6 points and 4 rebounds. And if he did that over the 4 quarters, that would be 24 and 12, I believe. So him just finding those little nuances and making sure that he's in alignment each quarter of hitting those goals really allowed him to stay consistent, get the numbers he needed, and get into the NBA All-Star game for the first year. Moving right along just with this, I see, Chris, you do a phenomenal job of this in just all your teachings as well. But just turning your players into coaches, letting them teach is something that I learned at a very early age. Is my teacher used to always tell me, when you learn something, teach it. And it'll help you definitely process that information. And going back to the retaining aspect is very important. And then also it takes pressure off you as a coach. Once you solidify your philosophy, sometimes take a step back and put it on your players. But it just rolls right into, putting your players in life situations. These are things that, again, allowing them to go through that trial and error process. I don't see, or I should say, nowadays you have a lot of players that play through fear. And it's usually because in a game, as soon as they turn the ball over, what do? They're looking over their shoulder at the coach, and they're afraid to come out the game. So they play a little timid. And so it's extremely important that, my philosophy is bones over cones. You have to have some kind of sparring session for them to be able to work on the reactionary aspect of the game. And that's going to be something that you'll notice your players go from 0 to 100 in terms of their progress or development, is allowing them to make mistakes in that kind of environment. And then just having them watch film of themselves or their favorite players is something that's important too, that you could kind of, again, make sure they're doing what they're doing. I see a lot of coaches not really give them homework in terms of the accountability aspect. And I think that's one way to make sure that you're both always going to be on the same page. That's something that I do, even with the pros. This is another clip right here. I'll just kind of fast forward it. Right here, this is just Juwan Evans, a player of mine that I've been working with since the 9th grade. He played for the Los Angeles Clippers during this time. And he was just kind of mentoring Tyrese Maxey.
Because like I said, as soon as the ball go out of your hands, you still got to look to be active. To go get it back, or shit, a quick cut, shit, you'll get an extra 4 points off of it.
Yeah, it just stays like, keep it so like you can be able to get on all spots of the floor. So like, make sure like, so the defense gonna keep you like one side. Just keep rejecting.
Because you're doing a good job keeping your feet moving. That's why you got that dribble alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, rejecting is a lot better though. I'm learning that. Like,
What's that?
More than going into the screen, rejecting the screen is more space.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're smaller. So like getting off the space, more pull-ups, easier. Instead of going where everybody's at.
Yeah, because that was the biggest thing for him, I think, was that floater.
Yeah.
Getting that in. He could shoot threes, obviously. And he's been dunking on everybody since birth. So
You know, athletic, I am, so
yeah. It's just that in and out's a motherfucker. As soon as you hit him, every time, just boom, because he got to bite. You know what I mean? And all you got to do is just freeze him for a second. Now he running right into that screen every time.
Flip drop, you pull it, whatever you want
Yep,
to do.
yep.
So, you know, the lineage in terms of like a coaching tree or what have you, all the things that I was teaching Juwan on pick and rolls in terms of pace or reads, now I'm putting him in a situation to make sure that he's teaching Tyrese Maxey, you know, the same philosophy. But this is also making Juwan Evans a better point guard in terms of knowing how to communicate with other players that he may or may not know. And that's extremely pivotal or extremely vital in the NBA game. If you're a smaller point guard, you know, like a Juwan Evans who is 5'11", you know, you got to be a vocal beast. And so just curating situations like this definitely helps, you know, moving forward. And this just goes back to, you know, the live simulations. You see Tyrese working on the floater. And what I'll also do when we do live situations is I put a lot of restrictions on my players. So, you know, for like a Tyrese, I may say, hey, this first game that we play up to 11, the only shot you could take is floaters. And then the next game, maybe only pull up threes. So what that does is that now they're headhunting their shots, but they're also aware of their shot selection. And therefore, when they're making or miss each and every shot, they're able to identify and correct as they go. So if you kind of just allow your players to just do a little bit of everything, you know, they're not going to really be tapped in or aware like they should be going into these situations. So that's something that, you know, we don't do it all the time, but from game to game, you know, I'll definitely have them just focus on one area that will help out.
8, 7, 6.
Chill out, Reese. That's better pace, man.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
You know what I mean? You still flat foot when you're coming off. Kind of like shift, let that ball hang so you can see everything develop. Yep.
8, 7, 6, 5.
Let go, Reese. Ah. Go for it again. Go for it again. Hit him, Kurt. Kurt, give him one.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3. 8, 7, 6.
Snap up, snap up. Good.
This is really my favorite part, and I only have a couple more slides left. But practice and empathy, you know, it always starts and ends with you as a coach. It's about accountability. It's about making sure that people feel you, you know, and that's something that, look, I guarantee you, 300 coaches, 400 coaches on here. I'm not the smartest. I don't know everything about the game of basketball, but one thing I will do is make sure that every player that I come across, they will feel my energy or feel that I at least care about their development, you know, and that will always open the levee for them to respond to you in a different manner. And this is just another little video with Olivier Sarr, who's now with Oklahoma Thunder. At this time, this is last year, coming out of Kentucky for his pre-draft. You know, he's from France, obviously a different country, big culture shock being in the States, but I'm talking to him about wine. You know, what's his favorite type of wine? And, does he like going horseback riding or going fishing? Just really trying to open up and just get to know him as a person. I think is far more important and valuable than anything that we could express or do on the court.
Try to rest up, but I'm always working. This time of year, it's a wrap. Yeah, towards the end of the month. So, hey, so if I go to Bordeaux, right? What's the best vineyard in Bordeaux?
I have no clue. The part I know is
Médoc. Okay. What age do people in France? Do y'all be drinking wine like at 14 years old? Like at the dinner table?
16.
16?
I don't do it though.
Nah, I know you don't.
Most of them are 16.
Okay. Well, hey, when you trying to go fishing, man?
He ain't work.
Huh? It's a fisherman. He's a country boy at heart. He a country boy at heart, man. You been horseback riding? Dude, I guarantee you, ain't nobody countryer than me in here. Huh? You been horseback riding? You ain't never been on a horse? We gonna go. No, not right now. Not during pre-draft, but after the draft. Hey, I'm telling you, bro. I'm gonna put you on the thoroughbred. I'm gonna take you. You know, me and Frank got a farm, man. I'm gonna take you to a farm. What? You gonna like it? I'm gonna take you to the real country, baby.
Look at what you're doing.
Oh yeah. All right, man.
Just kind of wrapping things up. You know, being interested in life and people. You know, I always look at like every day as an opportunity. And some of you guys that are on here, you know my story. You know, I used to be homeless with my son, and you know that was a very tough time for me. But one thing I learned is, you know, we all are going through something. You know, and as players, I think, or as coaches, we look at our players sometimes and we tend to forget the life element of what we're dealing with every day. You know, and it's just very important, and it's paying attention to players' energy. You know, especially if you're a coach, when you're dealing with your players every single day, you should know if there's something wrong or not without them even saying anything. You know, this millennial generation, they don't really have the best methods to express themselves. Hell, people nowadays don't have the best methods to express themselves and to deal with their pain or frustration. And that's why you see mental health at an all-time high in terms of that's its own pandemic. And, you know, you setting the tone and finding ways to say things that will trigger their interest is very important. And it'll just lead to a bigger connection where you're going to be able to deliver, you know, the information you need them to retain. And last but not least, you know, don't take this for granted. You know, not to get emotional over it or anything like that, but man, this is such a blessing. It's such a blessing to even be on this masterclass. Every day we have a choice, you know, to really look at the whole opportunity of coaching full time, or maybe some of you guys are trying to get into it full time. You know, this game will introduce you to some amazing people. And it'll also give you a lot of different opportunities to see the world or whatever the case may be. But if you treat this game right, it'll definitely give that good karma back.
Whatever it is, drop this inside shoulder, right? We're trying to square our shoulders, obviously, to the basket. All right, we're working on that left hand kick. We got to get that left hand stronger. You look at guys like Isaiah Taylor, Deron Lamb, a lot of guys that kind of got cut short early, kind of in that combo guard situation like you're at, right? 1 and 2. The reason why, it's not just because they can't score. They can score back in the day, but it's finding guys and getting them open. So your precision passes got to be on point. And you can't just be so right-hand dominant. You know what I mean? Because in the league, you're going to have to be able to get from top of the key and swing the ball with that left hand too.
I'm not the scorekeeper, but that was meant to be. He is aware of where people are and where they're going to be.
So you look at all the great passes, Steve Nash, shit, and the list goes on. You can do right or left. When you come off, 1, 2, as soon as you get to the elbow, let's try to zip it all the way over to me. All right? Now we're going forward. My hands can't move. All right? Hands can't move. So when you come off, go. You got to hit me. So I'm right here. It's got to land. What I want you to try to do also is try to lace these seams up. You know what I mean? Because you missing a lot of assists. Sometimes if somebody catches the ball like that, they try to catch, reset the seams, and then go for the shot. Your thing is you're trying to lace it up. So if this is what great like Chris Paul, this is what we work on with Juwan. I'm here. Before I pass, I got to figure out, lace it up and zip it right there. So when he catches, his fingers already feeling comfortable on the shot.
I want you guys to focus on just Trae Young's posture, his body language, his eye contact. When I'm talking to an individual or a player, I'm looking at their posture, the eye contact. These are things or little cues that will allow you to understand if they're really paying attention or not, as opposed to the kid who's just looking up in the stars when you're speaking. It's important to set that standard early on. So whenever you first meet a player, I don't have expectations. I don't expect you to do anything, but here's a standard. This is what you have to do when a coach is talking to you or whatever the case is. We need to practice these good habits, and that's something that's very important because it is contagious. So just so you guys could kind of read his body language. And so right here, we're just talking about passing, and as you can see, Trae, eyes are glued on me. His posture is good. He's intrigued. Even a little bit after this clip, I remember him just going on this long tangent of questions about passing, so we dove more into those details. And, that's what makes Trae Young, to me, one of the best playmakers in the game. And I'll just leave you with this. I touched on this in my last speaking engagement. This is my favorite quote. It's something I live by. And I think for you as coaches and trainers, understanding that, people will forget what you said to them. Hell, this whole masterclass, I'm sure maybe you guys forgot a lot of what I said. You may have forgot what you did for somebody, or people will forget what you've done for them, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And so if you really just lean into that aspect of empathy and understanding and making them feel a certain type of way, that is the best way to make a player retain the information that you give them. It's no different than maybe your grandmother or grandfather or mom and dad telling you things as a kid, loving on you and stuff like that. And you always kept that information in the back of your mind. And now you're as a parent, you're displaying that to your children. It's the same method in basketball. So make sure that, before your players leave the gym, let them feel you. Let them understand that you care about them, and that'll go a long way. It really will. And whatever you're lacking in terms of knowledge about a particular drill or what have you, their willingness to understand that and go through that with you will definitely be an opportunity for both of you to grow and get better. So, you guys check me out, my social media, and definitely would love to get in contact with you guys.
Coaches, I know there are a few questions earlier. I'm going to start off, Tim, because I've had a question. And I've followed your stuff for a long time as well. And I am just curious, when you do have to go into, and you talked about building relationships and these informal conversations that lead to the more formal ones, can you talk a little bit about how you actually intervene when you have to change a habit or change a behavior or change a skill for a player?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's always like that for everybody. I think especially for me, dealing with a lot of these NBA guys, since high school, they're turning into grown men, you know what I mean? And as they start developing their own freedom, their own levels of curiosity, and, doing that whole thing as a young man, you also have to continue to tailor your workout regimen, and even the off court thing. There was a book I read by a U.S. Navy SEAL called Make Your Bed. And I always like, that's pretty interesting, doing the little things. And so, as they got better, it's kind of like, I got to find something to bring them back down and humble them a little bit, and for them to commit to just making their bed. If you can't make your bed, there's nothing that you're going to do on the court that's going to listen to them. How you do one thing is how you do everything, that kind of thing. So it's a constant adjustment, but having those conversations and just me now asking them more questions about what they like to do, or, what's the offense looking like, or just getting some feedback allows me to kind of just tailor what we need to do moving forward.
Good stuff. Hijo, do you want to ask your question, or do you want me to?
Now I'm unmuted. So I'm from Europe, Finland, and this was a hot conversation topic today in my country. There are some ball clubs that their whole business model is based on growing up and selling players. And those clubs, they employ people full time to build up and shape players' character and personality. And I wanted to ask from you, do you think that those qualities are fixed? Are you trying to influence players' character and personality?
That's interesting. I think you do to a certain degree, because I think it's our due diligence as being the elders to have some form of mentorship. You don't want to try to change their personality. You want to actually, what I do is put them in situations to paint their own picture, so to speak. So when they come to our practices, I want them to really feel comfortable in being who they are. But when they do kind of step out of line in terms of what I feel like could be detrimental later on in their career or what have you, that's when I'll kind of bring them back a little bit and just say, hey, these are some things you really should be thinking about, because there's consequences if your behavior continues to act this way. So yeah, I know it is different in obviously other countries. I've been all over the world, and I've seen a lot of different philosophies, but to your point, allowing them to be them is always going to be the most important, but making sure that you're having some sort of boundaries as well.
Good stuff, Coach. Curious then, in terms of retention, you mentioned this a little bit, and just going a little bit deeper, what are some of the ways that you hit the same skill over and over again? You talked a little bit about getting some game-based play, I assume some on air, some block type of work, and some random work. So can you talk just a little bit about your art to mixing all of that?
Yeah, so my main thing is the rule of three. That's kind of my general formula. We all have that expression of players are made in the summertime. So essentially in season, I'm evaluating just overall game, right? Whether they're shooting, their ability to get to the free throw line, ball handling, et cetera. By the time they get to the off season, I already have generated a game plan for them to where we're just focusing on three key elements. And I think the reason why I'm so adamant about just breaking it down in threes, typically in the off season, you have at least 90 days. So that gives you 3 months, right? And if we're just like for Tyrese Maxey, just using him as an example again, during the pre-draft, we just focused on floaters, his touch around off the glass and in the backboard, spot up shooting, and his ability to be able to just break somebody off the dribble, break down the defender off the dribble. And the reason why we shrink it to just focusing on 3 areas of his game is because that will allow him to retain that information where he could actually correct himself in the game. And it's no different than building a house. You have to have your foundation intact. Then step 2 is building, the infrastructure on the walls or whatever, and then you build the roof. What I see a lot now in this game is coaches and trainers try to work on a little bit of everything, each and every workout with their players. And all you're doing is really just prolonging the development. So if you want your players to really get a good grasp of what you're trying to teach, simplify it, drill it over and over again, obviously in different scenarios, but you could change as you feel comfortable when they understand the subject matter.
Great stuff. And Sebastian, you want to ask your question? Okay. You got it, Sebastian, or you want me? Okay, I'll ask. How do you deal with a confidence crisis, which I'm sure is a very common question and challenge? And then with that, how do you teach confidence?
And you see this gray hair? that is damage control 101 almost every single day. And, from the emotional intelligence aspect, every player goes through it, whether it's coming off an injury, like I said, with LaVoy Allen, there's always some form of maybe mild depression, dealing with their personal life, whatever the case is. It's your job to make sure that you're good first. You know what I mean? Take care of yourself first as a coach, making sure your energy level's right, your personal level, everything, because again, it starts and ends with you, like we mentioned before. But dealing with the crisis aspect, you got to bring the life component in and have them understand that, like, this is just a temporary circumstance that you're going through. You know what I mean? And so one way that I could break that, let's say if a player is going through a shooting slump or whatever the case is, and they're just extremely frustrated, what I'll do is I'll start putting them in situations for them to have small wins, small victories. I may put them, drop a play or whatever to get them closer to the basket just so they can see the ball go through the hoop. And that'll kind of start to trigger, a sense of more happiness or feeling. And then again, just consistently bringing the positive reinforcement to uplift their spirits is something that, definitely helps out.
Good stuff. And then Brendan, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, definitely. Tim, thanks for joining this evening and leading us with your experience. I'm just curious how, or if you change your communication style when you're working with younger players, high school, as opposed to college or professional players.
No, I really don't. I'm literally sitting in the gym right now. I just got done coaching my son's team. It's a 5th grade team, and it's going back to those standards and expectations, right? I don't never expect people to do anything. I feel like that's when people talk about expectations, I get it in theory, but it's also a form of entitlement to me. But having a standard, even with my 5th grade team, when you come into this gym, we have to get this work. You know what I mean? And we're going to have fun. We're going to get through these mistakes or what have you. But I never really change anything, because as soon as I change my tone or just who I am, depending on the level I'm dealing with, that really changes the whole workout regimen, or just even the feel or the vibe, So I just make sure that I try to make sure that I'm always me. And I train my 5th grade team the same way I train the NBA players. And I always try to make sure that everybody's held up to the same standard. And, that's kind of what just worked for me over these last few years.
Great stuff. Coaches, anything else jump out as questions while we have coaching expert Tim Martin with us? And very excited to have you here, Tim.
Likewise.
Awesome. Well,
I'll
go ahead,
bring,
Tim.
Can I bring this back on you real quick?
Absolutely.
Chris, you've done just an outstanding job. Like I've been probably one of your biggest fans for a long time. I love how you're able to also just go to different countries and just, find different methods and stuff. So I'm curious for you, what's probably the biggest thing that you've learned in terms of this path that you've gone down, just dealing with different coaching styles and philosophies and just all over the world? What do you think has been that for you?
Well, I think the number one thing, and you mentioned, you referencing going from a young coach to an older coach with your gray hair, and we all go through that process. And I think for me, it's the biggest thing is, again, just the absence of ego as you move through your coaching career. And we start off with really big expectations of ourselves, and the game humbles us. And what I've learned through that is, again, not to try and create disciples, but to just authentically share and let coaches determine what they're going to adopt or adapt. And, and it's on them. And I can't tell Tim Martin, exactly what he should do, but I can give him some insights that would stimulate his thinking to say, hey, listen, this might work here, this might work here, but ultimately it's not me imposing, it's me sharing. And that's been a real big insight as I've started this. And Basketball Immersion started in 2014. And, all those experiences, as you know, have humbled you and humbled me, and all the great coaches that have joined us, even on this platform tonight, to be able to spend some time to learn from us, as you said earlier, is very humbling. So I'm grateful for that, and grateful for you.
No, likewise, man. Like I said, I've been watching just your platform, and the amount of sacrifice that you put in to this. I really admire that, because whether it's doing your edits or just trying to find different ways to just, share more information and to create a community. I really admire that, man, because it's just something that, as I'm even getting older, I'm trying to figure out healthier and better, more effective ways to grow and share the information I've learned. And so that's why I was so happy when you asked me to come on, just because, like I said, I've been a big fan for a long time.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you asking the question. And Tim, we're not done. At some point, I will get to where you're going to train some players and spend some time with you, because that's a goal of mine for a while. And now that we're past some of this, that's something that I want to do. So first off, let me thank you. Incredible stuff. And coaches, thanks for your patience. We will add the vocals to the edit that I post and make sure that you all get it. But hey, that's the way of the world, and we all adapt, and we'll move on. Tim, thank you so much for sharing the game and authentically doing what you do.
No, thank you guys so much. Look forward to you guys, continuing the conversation moving forward. Check me out on my website. It's timmartiniq.com. Fill in the information box. We have our new mentorship program that we just actually started. And so we start pre-draft in about a week and a half now, getting these guys ready for the draft. So would love to meet some of you guys, share ideas, more about the game, and help each other out. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Coaches, go check that out. And I put both of his Twitter and Instagram there, and you can get access to his website through that as well. So go there. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everyone. Stay well.
All right. Thank you, guys. Take care.